The Bible. Judges. These are persons who became the trivial leaders of Israel. Israel is at war with all the neighbors, the Canaanites, the Midianites, the Moabites, Ammonites, and Philistines. The book of Judges describes cycles of oppression, repentance, and deliverance through their leadership. It was a tragic period for Israel, roughly from 1150 to 1025. Then the Israelites picked a king called Saul to lead them. After King Saul came David, who took the throne from Saul, and he became a great king. At the same time, he is considered the real founder of both Israel and the Jewish faith. For centuries this chronology has been adopted as true, but archaeologists have, for 400 years, tried to prove the events of the Bible, and we can talk, for example, Noah's Ark. If there really was a flood, there would have to be geological records or other records, but we have never, despite some people showing pictures of sites, found scientific evidence of that event ever taking place. We have never found evidence of the Garden of Eden neither. We have no evidence neither that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, or Moses ever existed. The Egyptians don't have records of a group of approximately 1 million people were ever in Egypt, 10 plagues, that many Israelites left Egypt in masses, the parting of the Red Sea, that they were lost in the desert for 40 years, Joshua, the Judges. We have nothing that can prove that all these things and people existed. Not until we come to David that we start see documentation and archaeological evidence. Before David we don't have anything. The Bible considers David as a poet king, and modern scholars also consider God Yah as a poet God. He is a God that speaks, and by speaking he creates. Let there be light, and there was light. The Bible is also full of covenants with conditions, as is the case of Noah, Abraham, Moses, and David. But with David the covenant is different because the Davidic covenant doesn't have conditions. God says, I Yahweh promise you, David and your descendants, that you will forever rule Israel, the house of David. This marks the end of biblical history. Jewish seriousness about literacy flows directly from the belief that words are holy, creative, and world-shaping. Therefore, we have Jewish contributions to philosophy, science, and literature across the medieval and modern world. The Jewish faith is the first faith that focuses on literacy creation. After the Bronze Age collapsed, the land of Canaan was in complete chaos. There were different groups. You had the nomads, the hill people, refugees from cities of Canaan whose cities have been destroyed, Egyptians, priests, and mercenaries. You also have sea people like the Greeks, so you have a mosaic of people together in competition with other groups like the Philistines. And now the challenge was to create a national identity out of all these different kind of people. How they all did that? Well, with the Bible. Every group had a patriarch and told his people, we have been in this land for the longest time, and that is why we have legitimacy to this land. We were here first. Groups intermarried with each other, creating family trees, family histories that were merged into one. The most important tribe in the Bible is the tribe of Jacob, because God named Jacob Israel. The second most important tribe is the tribe of Abraham for being the progenitor. The third most important tribe is the tribe of Isaac, which is the one who gets the least attention. Archaeology have been looking for the last 400 years to find evidence of Moses' existence. They have found nothing that suggests that Moses ever existed. We can see that David centralized power by centralizing religion, and he did that by naming Jerusalem the capital of Israel and building there a temple to worship the God Yahweh. People would worship by offering animal sacrifices, and he appointed priests to facilitate that. So to worship Yahweh, you had to come to Jerusalem. Moses is an Egyptian name that means son of or child of. His brother Aaron is also an Egyptian name and are Egyptians' names for Egyptian priests. So David relied on Egyptian priests to centralize authority. The circumcision was an ancient Egyptian practice, and Egyptian priests specialized in this, which gave them power and authority, being the circumcision the mark by which a person became Israelite. All this forms the cosmology of how different people are creating a national identity with a convoluted and complicated history. How they make sure that people from different places were going to be loyal to Israel. Well, the Egyptians who came to Israel went to war with Egyptians, Canaanites went to war with Canaanites, and so on. Israel is a political creation since the beginning. This was a standard practice. Other nations did the same, maybe somewhat different. One question that we must ask is, why do we have the Bible today as a religious text? Why don't we have an Egyptian text or a Greek text? And maybe the answer is that it's because the way the Bible was written. It's believed that the stories of the Bible were written by historians in the court of David, and every court would have an official historian. These stories were meant to be propaganda, and the person who wrote Genesis was a literary genius of the stature of Homer, Plato, and Dante, and was a woman, not a man. Historians call her the Yahwist because she uses Yahweh as the name for God. The style of the author concentrates not in war or conflicts, but in affairs, childbirth, marriage, love, and this is unique in human history. There is a great sense of confidence that is a woman, and she was a member of the court of David. She must have had access to a great education, and she must have been a princess, David's daughter perhaps, or granddaughter. It's interesting to note that approximately 1,000 years before David, the Sargon of Akkad, called also Sargon the Great, was the founder of the Akkadian Empire in Mesopotamia, ruling around 2334 to 2279 BCE. According to the legend of Sargon, he was born to a priestess, placed in a basket, and set adrift on the Euphrates River. This was 1,000 years before Moses. Sargon of Akkad had a daughter named Enheduanna, who is widely recognized as the world's first known author and poet. She composed hymns, psalms, and prayers, including the famous exaltation of Inanna and the temple hymns. These are considered the earliest surviving texts attributed to a named individual. She helped stabilize her father's empire, uniting diverse peoples under shared rituals and stories. Maybe David didn't know Sargon, but the lay end of Sargon's baby in a basket is too close to the baby Moses story to be original of the Israelites. The flood and the Tower of Babel are stories that circulated millennia before David. We will never know if they recycle those stories, but if sounds like a duck, walks like a duck, and looks like a duck, it must be a duck. To be continued.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.